I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is April 15th, 2022, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create the Dinosaur fridge magnet, which I have here, which I guess also really covers the Corgi magnet, but Dinosaur's a little cooler than Corgis. But I do like my Corgi. Okay, first some URLs, then we'll go over how to create this and some of the thinking process behind it. So I already did a video on this just showing how to use the one that's out there and just generally how to use the OpenScad and put the magnet and things like that. So it's out there already. Also, this is the one we're talking about. It's on Printables, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And for those GitHub type people, it's out here on GitHub as a gist. And let's see, what do we got over here? And also Neodymium Magnet. So here's these Neodymium Magnets that I use. I'll put a link in the show notes. These are the big, thick ones. They're $2.40 a piece, but they're powerful, strong, and I really do like them. And then lastly, here's the yellow that I'm using for these signs. So I'll put a link in the show notes. It's the yellow PLA, and it works pretty good. So with that, let's get going on all the OpenScad joy. So let's get down to this and show this. So here's the one that's all full, but we're gonna start blank, and we're gonna start showing all little details on there. So first of all, we need to kind of we'll start off just by making the sign itself, you know, the square kind of tilt on the side. Well, first of all, you see that FN 200 at the top there? That just tells you how much detail to put in the whole thing. I forget what the default is. Maybe it's 100. I'm not sure on that one. But you can set it. And the higher it goes, the more detail. The lower it goes, the less detail. So you can change, you know, it becomes more boxy. But also, the higher it goes, the more time it takes to process. And I just kind of use 200. I just kind of like that. It works real well for me right now. Okay, so we'll start out. We're going to set the size of this. So we'll have a variable called size 50. And then we'll start with a module here, which I called it backsign. So we'll say backsign, and we'll pass in the size. Or it accepts the size. And then just to start off, we'll say square, although we're not going to actually go in that direction. But we'll say size, and right now I have that module, but I'm not calling it. So if I run this, I should see nothing happen. So we'll start off and we'll say backsign, and we'll say the size. Boom. We run that guy. Now I've got my square. Now that's all well and good, but one thing I want to this is I want to turn it, which I could rotate it 45 degrees, and that would do what I want. But or actually, I could also. Well, let's do that. Let's do two things just to show you can do it. So we could say rotate 45. Boom. 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 And that gets our look. But also, I'd kind of want it centered, just to make it easier to place everything. So I could say center equals true, and then it will start drawing from the very center. Very nice. So I could do that if I just really wanted a square, but I like having the rounded edges, because you know, the minute I make something too sharp for a magnet, someone's gonna poke themselves, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use circles and holes. So I'm gonna come down here. Let me see what I have here. Okay, we'll come down here and we'll say a corner radius, because I may want to change that radius, make it bigger or smaller. It looks like right now I'm using 5. So we'll say 5, and then we'll pass in that corner radius. Boom. And then we'll make that a variable. So now we'll come down here and we'll say circle of corner radius. Boom. And I'll just remove this stuff since I don't need anymore. Boom. So now I got this circle. But what I want to do is I want to make 4. And I'm basically going to position them, you know, put one up here, one over here, one over here, and one over here. We're going to connect them via holes. So I'll come down here and I'll see what I did. Got to do a little bit of math here. So the distance, they're all going to be equal distance from this very center. So one will be up, you know, a distance of whatever. And that's not going to actually, we're not going to use 50. We're going to use a different number. And distance down, distance left, distance right. It'll all be the same. But we're going to do a little math because we're going to use that size not to be, well, if I moved them that distance, that would be, you know, it would be across the size would be twice, from corner to corner, it'd be twice that, it'd be 100 millimeters, but I don't want to do that. So I'll say sine 45 times size, I could really just use that, and rather than use, then I'll say, translate. Say translate, and when you translate, let me just circle this, you can do, you know, an X, a Y, and a Z. but you don't have to do the Z. I could do a 0. We're not moving anything in Z in this case, but I could put a 0, or I could just not put it in there. So I'm just not going to put it in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over D in the X and up 0. So boom, I got that one moved. And now we'll go make another one. And this one we'll make it 0 and D. There you go. Now, before I just make all 4, I'll do something interesting. For those who aren't familiar with hull, hull is a nice little command that will kind of attach everything. It's really nice. And I think for the math nerds, it's actually a really nice system. Now, you can see it attaches those two. Now, if I have another one, it'll attach the next one. So I can come down here. But when I attach them, it's going to try to connect them all. And it's kind of try to like go on the outer edge of all of them, if you will. So we got, so this time we'll do negative D and 0. And boom. Now, what, not that we need to do this case, but just to show you what happens if we wanted to have that little strip go up and down. What we could have done is we could have made 2 holes. If I want to do something magical like that, I could say 2 holes. So I could say, okay, we're going to do that one. Boom, 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 boom. And do, oh, wow, I'm repeating it. And then do those. That would work. I'm trying to think my way through this. And boom. So this part attaches this one to this one. This part attaches this one to this one, and they kind of overlay, so you get that effect. If that's something you want to do, which we don't want to do in this case, but it's interesting to know interesting ways you can use that hull tool. Boom. Okay, so lastly, I need to add the last circle. And this one will be 0 and negative D. Oh. Boom. So now we're getting that outline kind of how like we want. Now, I'm going to need to reuse this shape in several cases. And if you look at this, I've kind of reused it, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different times. So I've used it once just for this extrude right here. I've also used another one to kind of make this bevel to the bottom. Because I found out magnets, you kind of don't want them flat against the fridge. You want to have it a little bit of there so you can get a grip on them if you need to. I find it helps. And then also this little black part around here is 2 of them. It's a big one minus a smaller one. So I have to make it 4 times. So good time to reuse that code. So I'm gonna separate that out. So I'll make another module, and I'll call it module sign 2D, and it takes a size and a corner radius. There we go. If I can spell. Boom. And then we'll just take all of this. That's exactly what we want, and we'll just dump it in there. And nope, I grabbed one too many things. Boom. And then I'll come down here and I'll say I want to do a sign 2D, and pass in that signs and that corner radius. Boom. Okay. Same effect. I haven't done so, but now I can reuse this. I can use this again and again. So now the next thing I want to do with this guy, boom, 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 is I want to, well, first I want to color this one yellow. And I'm going to put a alpha in here, but I'll put an alpha 1.0, which means it's not see-through, but I just want to put that alpha there for convenience when I do want to tweak it a little bit to make it more see-through. For those who don't know, and I had to go learn this myself, when you use this alpha, 1.0 means completely opaque, non-transparent, and the lower you go, it goes between 0 and 1, so 0.5 is kind of like halfway see-through. But you'll see that here in a bit. Okay, so now we've got that, and I want to do a linear extrude. Linear extrude. Boom. But how much do we extrude it? I'm looking at the wrong thing in my other code here. Boom, boom, boom. Got distracted. Sign. There we go. Linear extrude. Oh, I'm using it. Never mind. I'm not linear extruding here. I could. But I'm not apparently. Oh, no. Never mind. I am. I did, and that makes sense. some of these times I look at my old code and I end up fixing things. In this case, I just got myself a little off track. So we'll do a linear extrude, and what we're going to do here is we're going to do a linear extrude of the sign height. So we'll put a variable here called sign height, and I keep messing myself up in my mind here. Back sign, back sign. Yep. Why did I put a scale it? I did something confusing to myself. Let me see. Oh, well, I have some code in here that I don't need. That's funny, look at the side. Okay, so we'll have this linear extrude, and we'll use the sign height. Okay, so we'll pass in that sign height, and then here we'll pass in the sign height, and then we need to set the sign height. And let's see what I set it to before. I set it to a sign height of 8. Boom. So with the sign height of 8, now if I do it, it'll actually have some depth to it, and there we go. And the nice thing now, I can tweak a little bit. If I didn't like that radius, I could make it 15, you know, make it a much bigger radius, and do everything based on that. Yeah, there's a point of contention there. Yeah, although that size, there's some bad code. Because, let me make sure I didn't do it differently in my code. Yep, I didn't account for the corner radius. Okay, so there's a problem. So if I wanted this to be consistently this size, here we go, fixing some code. What I want this distance to be equal, so I need to account for the radius. So if I make this radius bigger, it's going to be bigger, and that's not probably what I want right now. So I need to account for that. So I have this corner radius and the size, which means you have that D go out, you have the size, and then you actually have to subtract the radius, don't we? Subtract I think you subtract the diameter. 2 times that, boom. Which is going to make that smaller, which means I actually have to add that diameter back in up here, and there we go. Now, okay. There's some code I need to fix. So around that being 50, we'll make that 60. And now we're a little more parametric, so I can keep that size and change the radius. So I already found some bad pieces of my code. Okay, so 8 is the depth. I can change that to 18. There we go. Okay, good. Good. Already fixed the code. Or made an improvement. Okay, so we got this yellow here. So now the next thing I want to do is next thing I want to do is we're going to reuse this back sign, and we want to pass in, we want to make a black border. Oh, sorry, we want to actually let's make the bevel first. I just cut up to my code. We do want to pass in one more variable. We're going to pass in a scale. And so we're going to have this scale here. We're going to say it's 1.0. And we're going to come here and pass in this scale again. We'll say scale equals, we'll just call scale it. Scale it. Boom. Because we're going to come down here and we're going to scale it as you pull it up, you can tell it to change its size. So come down here and we have to set the variable scale equals scale it. There was a reason I did that. Now if we do 1.0, nothing happens. Oh. Let's see, it's complaining about something. Line 19. Oh, linear extrude. Oh. It's in the linear extrude, sorry. Not in the actual, my bad. In the linear extrude, that's when you scale it. Now if we're scaling it by 1.0, no changes. That means it's going to continue up the same way. But if we change this and we put in a 0.5, we'll see it shrinks as it goes up. Now for this first one, we don't want to do that. We want to keep it at 1.0. But actually in this case, we're going to hide it a little bit. I know what's coming out. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make the bevel. We're going to make the bevel go up, and then we're going to flip it. So we'll say this bevel is going to be, let's see, what are we going to do with the bevel? Size, corner radius, but we set it as size. Yeah. We're going to say assign height. Ah, there we go. Assign height -2. And over here we're going to put 2. We're going to make this a set 2 for right now. But we could make that a bevel height. So we can say bevel height equals 2. Yeah, let's make it a variable. I didn't before. It's probably better to make it a variable. That way it's easy to tweak because it's in 2 locations. Okay, so the bevel height, and we got the sign. Oh, boom, boom, boom. What do you not like about that? Ah, I forgot to put my semicolon there. There we go. Semicolon. Now we're good. So we got the bevel height, but here we're going to scale it a little bit, and we're just going to say 0.95 and just have that as a set. And so you can see it just kind of bevels in just a little slightly. But right now, after doing that, it's not the right way. I need to flip it upside down. So we'll come over here and we will say, we'll rotate it. Boom, boom, boom. And we'll say that, and we'll say, we're going to rotate it 0, 180 to flip it over, and then 0. And it should flip over. Now it's upside down. And now if we bring this guy back, boom, now we got that little bevel, and we kind of have the base of where we want our magnet to be. So fantastic. So next, we're going to bring in that black border on the top. So we're going to come down here and we'll say, I don't know what I call it. I called it black border. So I'll make a black border, which I'm going to pass the size into, because I need the size for the top. And I'll say corner radius, and the sign height. I need to know where it is, minus the bevel height, and let's see, and then the SVG height. Because we're going to bring in an SVG at some point, and we want it all to be raised just a little bit. So now we'll come down here. The only variable I'm missing now is SVG height. Boom. And what did I call that? Boom, boom, 0.45. 0.45. Okay, so we pass that all in. We got this border, black border. Fantastic. And I'll come down here and say module. Boom, 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 boom. Now if we run it right now, nothing should happen. I shouldn't break anything, but I did break something. Oh, I will call that, well, I need to change that into a variable, so what did I change that into? Black border. Sign height. I just called it sign height in here. Okay. Well, call it top height, what it really is. Okay, so there's the top height. So we got this black border, and we're going to come down here, we're going to color this black so we can see it how we expect it to be. And again, I'll give it an alpha of 1.0. Boom. So now we're going to reuse that, well, let's, just so we can see it, we'll comment these guys out here real quick. Boom. And we'll come down here and we will say assign, we'll reuse the sign 2D. In fact, I'll just kind of copy this sign 2D right down here. We'll say sign 2D, size, corner, radius, right? Boom. So we get this big guy. But we don't want it quite that big. So what we're going to do is we'll say the size, corner radius. What am I going to do? So what I did is I said size minus the corner radius. Just using that as a variable there. Corner radius divided by 2. So it gets kind of close to the edge, but it's programmatic. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that one and then make one that's slightly smaller. In this case, I'll actually subtract the corner radius. And now if I run this, they're both over top of each other so you can't tell. But I'll do a difference. And for those who haven't fiddled with a difference, what difference does is it takes whatever's first. Whatever's first here, it'll create that, and everything else afterwards, it'll subtract that shape from it. So just be aware that if you have more than one shape beyond the first one, it'll keep subtracting, which is useful. Boom. So now I've got this. but I do need to extrude it. So I'll say linear extrude, and I will extrude it the SVG height. Right? Well, the SVG height. Boom. Now in my case, I keep adding a little 0.1. I don't know if it's really necessary. I'm just a little overkill to make sure it actually. I add a little bit, and then I move it down a little bit just to make sure that the shapes are within each other. And then when I do a union, we don't have any issues with faces. I may be a little overanal on that. It may not be an issue, but I continue to do it. Okay, so now we have that. If I bring back, and this actually has a depth that's just very thin, but it has a depth. If I bring back the other guys, we're going to miss it because it's actually inside. But we can come back into this yellow, and we'll make it a little see-through, 0.5. You would think I would be able to see it. But apparently not. I'm not see-through enough. Let me make myself really see-through. Huh. Well, so much for that. You'd think you'd be able to see that black, but I can't. Okay, well, I'll give up on that for a moment. But suffice it to say, it's there, but it's actually at the surface. We need to move it to the top. So I need to come back here to the sign, to the back border. Boom. And we need to do a translate. Boom. And I don't need to move it in X. I don't need to move it in Y, but I do need to move it in Z. And I need to move it to that top height to get it right at that border there, but I also want to subtract just 0.1 because I added that back into the height afterwards. Otherwise, because I want it to be a little bit lower. And boom, there I go. We are right exactly where I need to be. So now the next thing, let's see, now the next thing we just need to add the SVG. So we'll come back in here and we'll say SVG. I just called it SVG. Okay, so I'm going to make a module called SVG. SVG. And then we'll come in here and we'll make it empty right now, so nothing there. Then we're going to put some variables in here. So we'll say SVG. What did I do? I'm going to say SVG. I want the image, SVG image file. Now, located in the same directory, I have Dino _01.svg, and I can bring that in. Now, if I don't know exactly where the file is, I can, or if it's not in the same folder, I can go over here and grab that file, choose a different line just so you don't get yourself confused, and then drag it over and drop it. And this will show you the entire directory, where it is, and it'll work. But in this case, I'm in the same directory, so I'll just continue on in this fashion. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we've got the SVG image, and then I want to do an SVG scale. I'm going to have to scale it. And it looks like I did 0.147, but you could adjust it based on whatever image you bring in. Oh, in fact, I just did that. SVG, oh, and an SVG adjust. You're going to need to adjust it because it could, if you're lucky, it's in the center. If not, it might be somewhere else in the plane and you have to move it over. So I'll say an SVG adjust, which is going to adjust an X and a Y. And it looks like I did a 0, a -2.3. But we can change it as we need to. And then assign, okay, we'll get that. We'll get to the sign font in a minute. So we have the SVG. And down here we'll say, we got this SVG, and we'll say SVG image file. We'll pass that variable in. And then we'll pass in sign height. The sign height, in this case, minus the bevel height. Now that we've changed that variable, right? So sign height minus bevel height, and the SVG height that we're going to use, and the SVG scale, and the SVG adjust. And I'll just copy all these so I don't mess it up into the module. Boom. Then I'll come down here. Now that I've got the module, we'll start to write it. Let me just go over so I can reference it here. Where are you, module? There we go, SVG image. So we'll come down here and we'll say import SVG image. And that should import it. Oh, well, I can't do an equation right there. We'll call it top height. My bad. Unknown variable SVG image. Oh, SVG image file. There we go. So you can see he's over there and he's a little on the big side. And also we want to color him black. So say black. Boom, 1.0. You don't need to put this alpha in there. The only reason I'm doing it is so if I want to change it later on for convenience and make it more see-through, easier to see. Boom. So now he's black. So now we've imported him, let's scale him. So we'll use that scale. Well, we can scale, we want to scale in X and Y, but not Z. So we'll do this. And we'll use that SVG scale. SVG scale X, SVG scale Y, and Z. Boom. So now he is much smaller, but he's also probably hidden underneath here right now. So can't quite see him. In fact, if I take away the back sign, you'll probably see him. Yep. See, there he is hiding. Boom. Now, next thing we can do, now, just to let you know, we can actually, the scale, you can scale them differently. So you could make him crazy, you can warp him in a sense. So now I can make him oblong if you wanted to. I don't want to in this case. Okay, so now we got that. We need to do a linear extrude. Boom. In this case, we're doing the same linear extrude that we see down here and the same translate, so I can literally copy this. Or, you know, there are some ways I could combine that, make another module, but in this case, I'm going to keep them separate still. Nah, come on. Boom. Boom. Let me just double check that. So we have, I'm going to extrude it +1 and move it. There we go. Boom. So now he's on the top. But he's not in the right location. So we're going to translate him a little bit with the SV adjust, which there's different ways of doing it. So I think I'm going to change the way I did do it. You can translate, you can have nested translates just fine, which is what I'm going to do here. Because I kind of prefer this new way of doing it. So I can take this SVG adjust, which has an X and a Y. You can see right here, it's an array with 2 variables. Or we consider an X and a Y. And I can pass it in just like that, and it will adjust it. It didn't adjust it much. Wow. Let's see, we'll say -10. -15. Okay. 3. Oh. -20. So we can adjust him and move him around. Now, in all honesty, I was actually going to go do the pterodactyl. So let me stop. Let me change this because there's a pterodactyl file I have here. I'm going to copy that over here. I haven't made a pterodactyl magnet, so we'll go make one. In fact, I'll probably post it after this. Pterodactyl, there he is. And we need to change the height of that, change the scale. Let's see, make him a lot bigger. And we need to adjust where he's at. Okay, too big. Probably go a little bigger maybe. Okay, -31. Okay, that seems workable. Okay, so we'll leave him there. So there he is with the pterodactyl, and he is good to go. Okay. Let me double check on all my brain here. So color black, he's in the right location. He's extruded, so he'll be available. He's there. Okay, so the only last thing we've got to do, well, a couple of things we got to do. Let's do the wording first. And then we got to do the last thing about the magnet, which is always fun. So I'm going to come down here and I'll make a sign font. And I'll say, I'm going to make it Arial, but here's how you can make it different fonts. So what you need to do is you go up here to your help menu, go to your font list. It'll show all your fonts here. And then you search for one you want. In my case, I'm using Arial Style Black. There we go. And then copy to clipboard. And then boom. In fact, you know, I might change that because I do have this font I just downloaded for another video where I have Jurassic Park font. That might be cool. We'll see. It may or may not be cool. We'll see. Okay, so now we're going to come down here and we'll do we're going to do this thing called words. So I'll come down here. I'm going to make this module called words, where you pass in a word. Well, I'll just say dinosaur for now. Well, I hope I didn't spell that wrong. P-T-E-R-O-D-A-C. Okay, I think I'm good. We're going to pass in whatever word we want, and then we will say the sign font. We'll pass in the sign font variable. Boom, boom. And then we will pass in a font size. In this case, I had 4.1 listed before, but we may change that. And then we'll pass an array of an X and a Y, just so we can adjust it. So we'll say 0, 0 for now, but that gives us the power to move the text around. And that way I can, well, let's make the first one, then we'll make another one. Then I'll come down here and make a module, words, and we'll say, what variables did I use? Word, we'll say word, assign font size, and position. Boom. And we'll come down here and we'll say the text, and we'll say word, and we'll say size equals the font size that we're passing in. And then things I like to do, there's to center it, I just say align, vertical align equals center, and horizontal align equals center. Boom. Oh, I need to put that in quotes. Center. And I think that's good. Now, this would work. I mean, if I do that, it's there. Oh, H. Spelled that wrong. H align. It's there, it's just in the center here. But I need to move it, and I need to linear extrude it too. So we're going to go down here and we'll say, we're doing it both in the same place. So we're going to say, oh, yeah, that's how I did it. So I'll say translate position, passing that X and Y in. Boom. You know what? This is going to, there's another thing that's going to force me to update some more of my code. So we got that position. I have not yet linearly extruded it. But now if I have that, and I go, okay, I'm going to move this over 100, we should see it pop in somewhere. There we go. There's the pterodactyl. There we go. And we're going to say, what did I do? We'll say color black. Color, well, I'll do it in here. A little adjustment to my old code. Boom, 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 boom. There we go, pterodactyl. But I haven't yet, I don't have it in the right location, I haven't repositioned it, and I haven't extruded it yet. However, one thing I've noticed, I'm moving this, I'm moving that back border and the SVG and the words to the same height, and I'm also extruding the same, so why not let's do it all in one go. So we'll come down here and we'll kind of copy that, this part. We'll say the translate and the linear extrude, we'll say right there, and we'll close it out here. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. Boom, 1, 2. Okay. cleanup here. And now this is going to be a double whammy, so we need to go remove those from the other guys. So I'm just going to comment them out real quickly before I delete them. And then I have to comment both them out. And extrude and translate. Boom, boom. Make sure we're okay. Messed that up. Unable to convert. I probably passed a variable in up here. So we have the top height, which is a variable I'm passing in. So we're going to have to say sign height minus bevel height, right? Boom. And there we go. But then now we didn't, since we're doing it here, the color's not being applied. So we'll do the color out here. Color is black. Boom. Boom. Boom, boom. Oh, I missed something. Oh, one too many there. Boom, now there we go. So we'll take this, do a little cleanup, and we'll remove this stuff. Remove this, clean it up a bit. Boom. Okay, so now we'll do that 0, 0 so it shows up somewhere close. There we go. So now what we probably want to do is, since this is all being, we could put that in a module, but I kind of like where it's all here. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Okay, so we'll take these words, we'll make another word, but this time we'll do the dinosaur. Oh, I mean crossing. And same thing, sign font, and we'll say we're going to move this guy up. What did we do before? We said 20 up, and we said -25 down. Boom. There we go, we got the crossing. But we have, the font doesn't look right. Arial style font. Something's not quite right. Assign font was assigned. Oh, we got that overwritten in file. We have an issue with the sign font. Okay. We forgot one last little piece, which is actually telling it what font to use. So you say font equals sign font. No wonder it's not using the right font. I didn't tell it which font to use, so it just probably picked the most generic one. So there we go. So now we got the crossing sign, and let's go back and make some adjustments to it. So I'm looking at my code over here. It's like for the crossing I use 5.3, and there we go. The pterodactyl naming convention is a little bit big, so maybe we can lower it a little bit. Probably a good place to put it, but still too big of a font, so we'll make it 4, 3.8. Probably lower it a little bit more. 17 and 3.7. Maybe lower it just a slight bit more. 16.5. And boom, we got a pterodactyl. So far so good. We're almost there. But we got a problem. We got this pterodactyl, but we got no place to put the magnet. So there's no gap, there's no void in the center to actually put the magnet. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to come up here and we'll say a union. We're going to take everything we've made so far and make it one object, just so it makes it much simpler and not have to worry about fighting to subtract the void of the magnet as you might move it around. Okay, so now they're one object, and then what we're going to do a difference. But before we do the difference, we're going to take this. And I think I can come up here, let's see, make it, there you go, hashtag. We'll use one of these modifiers. So, well, this tends to fight me, doesn't it? Well, we'll see what I can do about this with the modifier. And that yellow wasn't showing very invisible. Okay, but we have to make, we got to make this cylinder. So we're going to come down here, and it's really easy because we just got to, with this magnet, we only have a couple things. We have the magnet, the diameter, which for the magnet I'm suggesting use, I use 32.2. But you know, you got to be careful because what if they make a bad batch and it's slightly bigger or slightly smaller? I would suggest whenever you print these out to do one test run. Make sure you have to stop it where you put the magnet in. But if it's too big or too small, make adjustments and go back and fix it. So there's the magnet diameter, magnet height, and same thing, you might need to adjust it. Or if you choose to get a less powerful magnet, you might make this a smaller one. And the magnet depth, which I said is 0.8. Now that magnet depth is actually how far it is away from your fridge. So from the bottom up, it's 0.8 millimeters away. So then we'll come down here and we'll make a cylinder. Simple enough. So we're going to make a cylinder, and we'll make the cylinder the magnet height, and we'll make the the diameter equal to the magnet diameter. Boom, there you go. And because we got everything centered, it's really easy to position it. We'll say center equals true, and it's all centered, and life is good. And now it's there, but it's kind of in the middle there. And we do need to adjust a little bit. And if I go here to the yellow, let's see if I can make the yellow a little more see-through so I can see it. Boom. Yeah, I can't see it. So my transparency is transparent, but I can't see the gooey center. I think I have an idea on how to show that. Okay, so we got that. I got an idea. So now we need to translate this to move it in the correct position. Now right where it lays, it's actually not laying on the bottom or next to the fridge yet. It's actually in the center. So it's actually right now, it's laying, you know, right there. So I got to do a couple of things. So we got to translate in the Y. So we'll say 0, 0. And then we'll say the magnet. Well, in truth, it's actually not in this, it's not at the center, because we told this thing to center itself. It's actually halfway in above the z-axis. So we take that magnet height and we divide it by 2. So now it actually is at the center. And then what we got to do is we got to, I said -2. That's what I did. So now it's at the center, and then we got to drop it down to the very bottom. And the very bottom is that bevel height. So we'll say drop to the very bottom, and then we'll raise it back up again, which is the magnet height. Boom. And in fact, you know what, I should just, let's see, if I want to focus on this guy, use one of these modifiers. Boom. So what we're going to do, let me show it from the side. Boom. Okay, if I don't do anything, this guy is going to be exactly centered because I told it to center. Now what I want to do, and we'll copy this translate so we kind of, let me walk you through my thinking process. I want it to be 0.8 from the very bottom. I'm not sure where that is yet. So what I'm going to do is, well, I know where it is, but I'm not, let's do the math. So what I'll do is I'll raise it up to the line, which you don't like that. What are you complaining about? Let me put everything back. Oh, I commented that out. That's why it's complaining. Okay, so if I do this, it should raise it back to the height. Oh, maybe I have an issue here. Let me just exaggerate. Okay, why aren't you changing position? We have a translate. Maybe because I'm not focusing on that. Oh, that's kind of strange. I didn't think about that. Yeah, Okay, because I focused on that, not on that. Interesting. Okay, so I focus on that. Learn something new. Makes sense, but it's kind of funny. Okay, so now now that I can see it correctly, I'll say that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it just up. So now, boom, it's at the line, which I can think of. And then I'm going to bring it down because I have that bevel, which is lower. I'm going to bring it down to the very end of that bevel height. Boom. So now it would be touching the fridge. And if I left it like this, in fact, we'll bring everything back, and we should see, you can see it's kind of touching there. And in fact, if I did a difference, which is my end goal here, boom. And that's also why I did a union here, because we say union, oh, I need to get this out of the union. That's why. Oops. Union of everything, boom. There's a reason I have that union, because now, like I said, with the difference, it takes the first object and subtracts every subsequent object. With that union, that becomes the first object. Everything in the union is the first object, the other one subtracts. So if I do this, you'll see it's a little bit funny because it's right at the edge, so that's a confusing thing. But let me come back here and we'll go concentrate on this again, because that's not where we actually want it. Okay, so boom. So what we want to do is now we're at the bevel height, but then we want to get away from the fridge, and the distance from the fridge is that magnet height. Boom. There you go. And that's what we expect. Take that away, and now I can view everything. And boom, there we go. So now it's in there, and there's a void. But let's put a little thing in here to test that theory out. So we'll do another difference. So I'll come down here and I'll be lazy and make a cube. And I'll say 200. Boom, we'll make it big. Boom, so here's this giant cube. And we'll do a little translating. Translate something, something, -20, -30. Just so I get it below. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the thing in half, just so I can prove where everything, without slicing it, where everything is. Oh, there we go. And I can't type. There we go. Cool. Okay, and then we got to move it in the Y, -50. Boom. There we go. And now if I add an extra difference, just temporarily, because I don't want to keep this here, we should bifurcate that guy, and we should see a lovely chewy center right there. So that's where our magnet will go. And if I wanted it to be further away from the fridge, I could make it, 1.2 or 1.3, and it should go further away from the fridge. He says, hopefully. I didn't see it move, but maybe that's just my eye. 0.8. Oh, I don't see it moving. Oh, I'm using magnet height, that's why. Magnet depth, not magnet height. Messed up my code. Okay, so magnet depth. Ugh. There we go. That would have made for a really messed. I'm glad I bifurcated. I would have made a really messed up model here. Okay, that's where it should be. You see I'm relatively close to the fridge. Now, the closer you are to the fridge, the more powerful the magnet will hold. So I could do a 0.4 and it would hold much stronger, but also you start getting that layer too thin, and it could break out. So I found, 0.8 is a level that makes me happy. Now, if you found this magnet to be too powerful and you want it to be less, you could get a different magnet that's less powerful, or you could move it away. So if I did 1.2, it would be further away and less powerful. Boom, there we go. So bring it back to 0.8. Boom. Well, I'm sure glad I cut that thing in half, huh? I would have messed up this code. So hey, it's always a good idea to double check your code because you thought you were right and you were wrong. Oops. Okay, so we'll remove that because I don't really want to keep that around. Boom. Or you know, or you know what? I can leave that in there for kicks. Well, I should say for kicks. It's actually somewhat useful. What do I want to do? I got an idea. We can come down here. We'll make a new module. We'll call this module the magnet. We'll call it fridge magnet. Fridge magnet. All right. Boom, boom, boom. And we'll pass everything in here, which means we're going to need all the variables. So we got everything in here. Boom. And then we'll pass everything. We'll say size, corner radius, height, bevel, corner radius, I got that, bevel height, sign height. We got the sign height, bevel height, SVG height. We need that one. SVG height. And we already got the size, corner radius, sign height, bevel height, SVG image. All these guys. And I think that will do it. If I clean it up a little bit. I don't need that, I already got those. So SVG Image, SVG height. I already have that one, don't need it twice. SVG adjust. Okay, I think that is correct. Okay, so we'll come down here and we'll say, we'll just call this whole thing. Boom. Boom. You'll see what I'm doing here in a second here once I get it all hopefully working. Okay, good, it's working. Okay. So now that I have it as a module, I can do something really cool. I can come down here and say, cut in half. We'll say cut in half, and we'll make it true because it's kind of a convenient little tool to use, right? And so we'll come down here and we'll say if cut in half. I think you got to do that. Boom. Let me check on that. Or if it's just if cut in half. If cut in half equals true. I forget the if thing. That can make me look it up. Okay. Ah, there we go. There we go. If cut in half true, there we go. Else. Should have an else. Boom, boom. Okay, so now we've said it's true, so now we shouldn't see it. Is there an else? Or is it just only if? That is a good question. No, there's an else. I just didn't close the if. There we go. If else. Boom. Okay, so if I come down here and say don't bifurcate it, say false, boom, it shows up. How I normally want to do it. But if I do true, so we cut it in half so we can see things, what I can do is I can come back here, put this fridge magnet in here, and we'll say difference. Difference. Boom. 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 And we'll come back in here. We'll grab that giant cube again. Boom. But I want a difference. Move that over. And you're complaining. There we go. I think I've got it now how I want it. Boom, there we go. So now, cool. So now I can cut it in half any old time I want. It's kind of nice to have around, right? Boom. Okay, so I want to set that to false because I don't want to cut it. Boom, pterodactyl magnet. So I'll probably by the time this video posts, I've already put this out on Printables, and if I have, there'll probably be a link in the show notes here. If you want a pterodactyl, I keep saying pterodactyl. I like Teen Titans Go, and that's what Starfire used to say, pterodactyl. Even though I know it's pterodactyl. Cool. There you go. So that is the thinking process behind building this magnet. So you can make your own, or you can actually take this code, and if you all you want to do is, if you like this style of this crossing sign, and you just want to change the words and change the image on it. I actually showed how to do that in the other video too, but you can see it's not too bad. But anyway, there's a thinking process. Go make your own, and go make your own kind of a cool thing and post it. It'll be pretty cool. Share it on Printables. A lot of kids would like to see a little more pterodactyls, and there's all kinds of dinosaurs. Come on. Okay, so there we go. So with that, we can wrap this all up with this reminder that 3D printing is an engineering adventure you're on. You can develop your skills and knowledge and take this in so many ways. You can make a business out of this. You can teach others. And you can make amazing designs. So design it, engineer it. I keep staring at the flexi pliers the user Cisco made, which you can see at the end of this YouTube video. It's kind of scrolling down. You'll see at the end. Go check it out. It's really cool. I have some ideas on how to redesign it a little bit and add a spot for some branding. I think this would be an awesome toy to put a logo on and pass out for free while I'm at the homeschool conference. So we'll see how much effort I can put into it, and I definitely like it as it is, but yeah, maybe I can get that done. We'll see. We'll see.